Hi, y'all. It's me. It's been a minute, right? Welcome to Sweet Tea Astrology and Tarot. Things look completely different from the last time that I recorded for y'all. How are you doing? I hope you're well. I'm sending you a lot of love. And 2020 has been a rotten egg, let me tell you. Um, One of the main reasons why I stopped recording videos was because of some information that I channeled in late April of 2019. Those videos are on the channel if you want to look at it. They're the South Node conjunctions where Saturn and Pluto were touching a very sensitive node point on the moon, and I got a really hauntingly accurate theme that arose out of those two videos. So if you're interested in what I'm speaking about, go check those out. But this video started out in earnest as a October Aries full moon video because a lot has gone on since the Aries new moon this year. And then I got to look into the astrology and it's like, okay, well, we've got this full moon at the beginning of the month. And then Mercury's going retrograde. And then we've got a full moon at the end of the month. So it seemed imperative that I just go ahead and say, guess what? I'm back for your October astrology, y'all. So I'm sorry that I took a long time off. I needed that time. Some things have occurred in my personal life that has obviously shifted the recording dynamics, if you will. I've moved spaces. I'm in the same trailer hood, but I'm in a different trailer. It's nicer. It's more space. We need that space because my stepson moved in with us in the very end of January and has been with us since then. So the desk that I used to use, he has inherited. So I'm making do with what I have, and I hope that y'all can understand that and appreciate the fact that I'm working with what I've got, because that's really one of the themes of this year. So I'm making do with what I have. Um, it's been a long time, and I've really missed y'all, and I thank you for waiting for me. I kind of shut down after those April 2019 videos because it was a lot to process. And I couldn't have known. My imagination is not that big to have been able to even dream up what 2020 had in store for us. So let's talk about 2020. Let's talk about October 2020 to be exact. Starting off the month of October 2020, we have a 9 degrees Aries full moon at 5:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This moon is Mars ruled, and Mars is retrograde right now in the sign of Aries. That's a big deal. Saturn and Jupiter are direct, and Pluto's going to go station direct on the 4th of October. From October to November, mid-November, we're going to have a Mercury-Uranus opposition. And October begins and ends on very emotional notes with full moons. We have the full moon opening October, and then we have the Taurus full blue moon at the end of October on Halloween. Throughout the year, we have had, or actually it's been ongoing since late 2019, Mars square Saturn is still resonating throughout the cosmos for us. And we've had some exact dates, and there will be more exact dates, but this has been something that's kind of been in play since late January 2019, and we're still going to be playing with this until like November 2023. So we're not finished with this Mars square Saturn resonance. Now, the exact dates, you can Google them and find them or look to other astrologers that have been better serving y'all than me. But yeah, anytime that a late degree cardinal sign is activated by the moon or any other transit, the impacts of the Mars square Saturn transit aspect is becoming stronger. If you've been watching me for a while, I like to look to the Sabian symbols for clues to what we can look to the themes for in the lunations that we experience. And for the full moon, we have at 9 degrees of Aries, a crystal gazer. The keynote is the development of an inner realization of organic wholeness. And you can take from this concentrated attention. Well, this 9 degrees Aries moon is going to be very close to Chiron. It will have just passed over Chiron before it meets its full exacting full moon status. So Chiron is at 7 degrees retrograde in Aries, and that Sabian symbol reads, a man succeeds in expressing himself simultaneously in two realms. The keynote reads, the first realization of the dual nature of man and the possibilities it implies. This you can take away from it, the living of two separate lives. Since this is a Mars-ruled moon, and Mars is retrograde in Aries, in the sign that this full moon will be occurring, I looked up the Mars Sabian symbol as well. And Mars is at 24 degrees and 48 minutes. We're going to round up to 25 degrees of Aries, and this is the possibility for man to gain experience at two levels of being. The keynote you can take from it is the revelation of new potentialities, and the theme is faith while on probation. So let's take those Sabian symbols, put them in a Yahtzee can, and shake them up and see what we got. What it reads to me is the fact that we are really dealing with a very dense energy field where everything feels super concentrated, everything feels super dire, everything feels super on the line, on the edge. There's one of those oil pocket pimples that doesn't have a pimple head to it, but comes up to the skin and really is inflamed and erupted and needs that release of just popping it, but there's no outlet. That's what 2020 has been in a nutshell, right? It has been for me. I guess I should let y'all know that my sun is at 26 degrees and 59 minutes of Aries. So Mars is stimulating that area of the sky for me personally. I've been joking with more than one of my spiritually minded friends and saying that I have been seriously raw-dogged by the universe this year. It's refinement. It's to make one better. It's to bring out the best of yourself. And for exfoliation to happen, there has to be a little bit of grit. That's what I'm looking at this as. So from there, we look at the Chiron and the Mars Sabian symbols, which basically reflect to one another of saying, you've got to learn how to function on more than one level. You've got to be able to do at least two things at once right now, because most of us who are adhering to the rules of our particular regions are quarantined or socially distanced or, working from home, living out of bare necessity. Maybe not even that. Times have been rough. My husband, I got married last August, or it's been a year. Yeah, August 2019. 2018. I don't know. My brain is broken. Time is melted. I'll look at my marriage certificate and remind y'all we've been together forever, but we got married in Vegas. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. There's the math. But we're existing in two different realms of reality at the same time, being a stay-at-home parent, being a work-at-home parent, teaching, doing distance learning for your children. You've learned how to compartmentalize as well, because there's been a lot of grief and sadness that has occurred this year. We're reflecting on the new moon in Aries that occurred earlier this year. We are at its blossoming point. This is where we see the harvest. I mean, this is the harvest moon, isn't it? So some details about this full moon. The full moon is going to be separating from a conjunction to Chiron. There's a 2-degree orb. This speaks to me very deeply emotional healing coming through. There's a T-square between the sun, the moon, and Jupiter. The best way for you to navigate this T-square is to try to find your escape or outlet or ascension point through the Jupiter house, because Jupiter will be that hot air balloon that kind of lifts you out of it. The traditional malefics, when I speak about traditional astrology, that's Hellenistic astrology. I've gone through a great learning growth spurt in my approach to astrology. The way that I speak about it may be different from what you've heard before. It's all good. I'm still learning. We're all growing. It's an evolutionary process. But the traditional malefics are known as Saturn and Mars. They're both in their domicile or in their home. So Mars is in Aries, Saturn is in Capricorn, which means that even if, well, Mars is retrograde, but even if both were retrograde, while they're in their home, they have a stronger energy resonance and resource to work with than they would at any other place in the sky. So it lends to, again, the idea of divine timing. This is all happening for a reason. It feels like chaos, but chaos has to occur for us to figure out what balance looks like. We have this ongoing Uranus-Mercury opposition. This is communication shocks and surprises that will be ongoing. Mars and Saturn square, already spoke to you about that. It's ongoing through 2020 and then some. Okay, so Mercury. Mercury is going to be doing his retrograde dance again in the signs of Libra and Scorpio. Mercury started its pre-retrograde shadow phase on September 22nd. So I'm recording this under the shadow influence of Mercury in its retrograde area. Pre-shadow retrograde. The actual Mercury retrograde, station retrograde, occurs on the 13th of October at 11 degrees and 40 minutes of Scorpio. The retrograde ends on the 3rd of November. Americans, that is election day. The retrograde ends November the 3rd at 25 degrees and 54 minutes of Libra. A Mercury shadow will be cleared, which means we may know something about the results of the election around the 19th of November. Shortly after that, we have an eclipse in Gemini, which is our, I won't say our, which is the 45th residence sun sign, put it like that. So the Sabian symbols that occur with this Mercury retrograde, at Libra 26 degrees, it reads, an eagle and a large white dove change into one another, or change into each other. The keynote from here is the interaction of the spiritual will and of the love principle when critical needs arise. You can take from this adeptness. And Scorpio at 11 degrees, it reads, a drowning man is being rescued. And the keynote is the deep concern of the societal group for the safety of individuals. And the keynote is humanitarianism. Okay. I'm going to grab some water because I'm thirsty. I've been doing a lot of speaking. Okay. I'm going to pull some cards for you. We're going to go through each sign. I'll have this timestamp for you down below. I appreciate your energy, and I appreciate your presence being here. So, Aries, this full moon is occurring in your first house. This is where the full moon, Chiron, and Mars are all at. Chiron and Mars are retrograding. Your first house is literally your body. It's you. It's who you are on a fundamental level. It's how you show up in the world. It's how people know and recognize you. The sun in Libra, this is the spotlight, and where the new moon will occur on the 16th of the month, is in your 7th house. And that's the house of like your relational others. It's the people that you deal with. You don't necessarily have to be in a relationship with them, but these are the people that you deal with on a very regular basis. The ascension point for you, dear Aries, is the 10th house. This is the full moon ascension point, in my opinion, for both moons, for the 1st and the 31st, the 10th house. Focus on your career, focus on your standing in the world, focus on your reputation, focus on your dealings with authorities or authority figures, or focus on being an authority in your field of work. So we've got this Mercury retrograde between Libra and Scorpio. It's going to be occurring in your 7th and 8th houses. And then we've got the full moon in Taurus at the end of the month, with Uranus there in your 12th house, the house of self-undoing, amongst other things. I see it as a dream space, but it's a space that's hard to see. It's hidden for a reason. It's the darkest point because the ascendant is like the spark of you. Okay, had a card flip. Of course it would be the moon. Oh my goodness. I'm in a rocking chair and it doesn't bend. Yeah, the moon card popped for you, Aries. Are you shocked at all? I'm using a different card set. The 8 of Hearts. Deeply emotional healing was what was said earlier, right? You can look at 8 as the house that is associated with Scorpio, and the depth and the intimacy that it requires for that sort of bond to be had or made. This card deals with your instincts. It deals with subtlety. It deals with mystery. You could be unraveling a little bit of a mystery. You could be building a mystery. It could also be resonant with the Mercury retrograde because of the number 8. You are having that 8th house stimulation with the Mercury retrograde from October 13th through the 3rd of November. What does Aries need to see? That one was wiggling. These are the Psychic Tarot Oracle cards. Intuition. You could be Aries. Some of you may be dealing with a spiritual kind of situation where you're recognizing the gifts that you have where you didn't necessarily recognize them as gifts before. It could be the first time that your intuition is really speaking to you loudly. But with the moon and the intuition card showing up, it's like you're going to almost be getting like deja vu type situations, or I knew that was coming, feeling like your little antenna, antlers, whatever you want to call them, being in the ether, being able to kind of see it before it was coming. Knowing your dreams. Pay attention to your dreams, Aries. Pay attention to the dream space. And if you're doing anything that would block you from remembering your dreams, it's time for you to stop that and to clear that out so that you can get the messages that are trying to come to you through your dream space. It will help you with your intuition. It will help give you, I can't hold these but like the way that I wanted to. There is a knowing that is within you. It may not have roused itself yet, but between the full moon in Aries and the full moon in Taurus, you're going to be coming up against some things that you felt like you saw coming, you knew was coming, you had an inkling was coming. It's not necessarily going to be that big of a shock or a surprise to you. And that's very interesting. The fact that you know that it's coming could also give you an opportunity to prepare for it in the way that you need to prepare for it so that it is not as devastating, whatever it is. All right, Aries. I'll be right back. Okay, Aries. I thought my mic was dead. I don't guess it is. It sounds like it's still working on my tests. So we're going to go on to Taurus. Taurus, this full moon is happening for you in the beginning of the month in your 12th house. We've got the new moon in Libra in your 6th house. We've got Pluto, Jupiter, and Saturn in your 9th house. That's your ascension point. That's where you want to focus to try to levitate out of the energy of these full moons, if you will. Focus on that 9th house of long distance trips, higher education, the spiritual world, learning. Higher-minded things that take longer than just a day or two to learn. Focus on that. Give yourself that escape. Even if you can't travel, make a travel board. Make like a manifestation board, a vision board, whatever you want to call it, a wish book, to where when you are capable or when things do change and we're allowed to travel more broadly, you know where you want to go and you're capable of getting there because you've already kind of got the plan going. We've got this Libra, Scorpio, Mercury retrograde in between your 6th and your 7th house. And then you've got the full moon in Taurus in your 1st house where Uranus is. What does Taurus need to see for this October? Doesn't feel like a trick-or-treat October. It just feels like tricks and tricks and tricks and tricks and tricks in October. What does Taurus need to see or hear from me? Okay. That's 3 cards. Let's see. The Judgment card. There's going to be an announcement or a wake-up period. You got the Death card, which is death and destruction, renewal, creation, and Scorpio. We're having that Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, so it could be speaking to that. It's not always death. It could be rebirth. It could be things about it. You don't have any 10th house stimulation, but you had 2 10s show up, so it's almost like there's a completion in one way or another of a cycle that you're dealing with. And I mean, even more so because of that 12th house full moon starting off the month, it could feel like some completion in one way or another. A 10 of Wands is responsibility and burden. So hello 2020, right? Some of you, roosters may speak to you. You may want to look up what the rooster symbolism is for you. And if it speaks to you, let me know in the comments below. Let's see what the Psychic Tarot Oracle has to say for my Taurus viewers, friends, family, fans, listeners. My Taurus moon. What do we need to see? Okay, the universe. Universe is speaking to you. 2 + 1 is 3, and that is the communication card number. Some of you may be getting messages from like beyond, which is really interesting because today I just did a reading for a dear friend of mine whose son had passed in 2011. And his moon is at 20 degrees of Taurus, and my moon is at 20 degrees of Taurus. I never got to meet him. But he ended up showing up during the reading so much so that I channeled him, and it was deeply healing. It was deeply healing for her. To be honest, it was quite draining for me. I wasn't expecting it. Normally, I know when Spirit wants to channel, and I'm able to have a little bit more of a say-so in it, but this one just kind of felt like Oda Mae Brown and Ghost without the pottery wheel or whatever. Yeah. What does Taurus need to see from this vintage Wisdom Oracle deck? Adventure. Your little soul wants to go on an adventure. Taurus, don't let the constraints of where you're at keep you from feeling like you can't escape it. If you feel like you need to travel, you can turn on a documentary, a travel documentary, and get that feeling of enrichment when it comes to nourishing your soul through travel. And it seems like there is something within you that is just bursting for adventure and wanting it and needing it. Pay attention to your 6th house because there's a lot of resonance there with the new moon and Mercury going retrograde. That's the house of work and health, your daily responsibilities, your daily to-do list, and the things that you would do normally to take care of yourself and to make your world run more efficiently as well. I don't think that you have to worry about this in sort of a physical manner. I feel like this is you dealing, I mean, this is October. The veil is the thinnest, and we're in between 2 full moons. So, it could very well be that the majority of you are either being visited by loved ones from the past or people that you knew from the past, getting messages from your spirit guides that you may not even know are your spirit guides, like ancestors that are visiting you in your dreams. Don't deny or ignore the responsibility that this announcement or wake-up call could have in it. It could be that you are being given this message to give to another, is also something that I'm getting. Just, be careful in the messages that you do give and make sure that they're the ones that you're supposed to give, if that's the case. Trust your gut. Do it in love. I believe that if you do anything in love, you're approaching it with the right aspect of heart and mind. I don't see how anybody could go wrong when you're trying to show love or do it in love. Speak in love. Don't speak out of turn. And if somebody has just passed recently, it is not the time for you to be giving messages for them. Let them fully transition to the other side and get comfortable with where they're at and where they're going to be so that they can come back and forth if so necessary. Okay. So I'm going to put these up and we're going to look to Gemini. Gemini, this full moon in Aries is occurring in your 11th house, and that's the house of like your social sphere. It's your grander social sphere. It's like the place that you would go for like business awards luncheon kind of thing, that social group. It's also like your social media presence and how you deal with that. It can be just the groups that you belong to or memberships that you have. We've got the new moon in your 5th house of creation and creativity. Gemini, if you aren't looking to get pregnant, then you need to do something to make sure that you're not going to get pregnant. Because, pardon me. Oh my goodness, let me grab some water. Because you've got this ascension point in your 8th house of all things intimate. Okay? And 5th house, 8th house resonance could be baby making material if you're not careful. If that's what you want, then God bless. But if it's not, then take precaution. We've got the Mercury retrograde going between your 5th and 6th house. 5th house of creation, 6th house of your daily life and tasks. And then we've got the Halloween blue moon in your 2nd house of values, the things that you really want to possess and are eager to possess, things that you call mine. It doesn't necessarily have to just be material possessions. You do refer to people in your world as my such and such and so and so. It could be something as literal as that for you. Be careful on the blue moon. Make sure you're not losing your money or spending too much. Don't go gambling. Don't bet the farm. You could maybe get some funds coming to you in a means that you didn't expect. I would say kind of like dadgummit, it's on the tip of my tongue. Like the lost funds or whatever, where you have to prove who you are and that sort of thing, but you've got money in an escrow somewhere and the state treasurer's held on to it. You know what I'm talking about. It could be something like that, Gemini. So it could also be that you're having like a cash crunch at the end of the month because the 31st, I mean, that's a long month. What does Gemini need to see or hear from me? Not me, but I'm helping, right? What does Gemini need to hear or see? The 10 of Diamonds, this is like the 10 of Pentacles. Choice of security over risk, enjoyment of life and wealth. Can you see that? So, I mean, we were talking about, it's funny because the way that this card looks, you can also flip it this way and it's a mirror image reverse. It's almost like you're seeing the other side of the coin in some situations. Because this Mercury retrograde is also occurring in your 5th house, Gemini, I see some of your friends from childhood trying to get back in touch with you. Childhood or just from the past. Not necessarily childhood, but from the past. And it could strike up like you really value their time, that sort of thing. You get to see how they've grown, they get to see how you've grown, sort of situation. Shadow and deception and envy. Yeah. I told you it was like a mirror shadow reverse, right? And then these two cards pop out. It's like you're able to see the other side of the coin in a certain situation. It could be around your childhood. It may not have to be, but it could be. I'm just checking the math to see if there's any numbers that show up in your houses, like the house is being affected this month. There's not. Shadow, deception, and envy. Don't let your choice of security over risk keep you in a place where you're operating from your shadow and in deception and envy. It's It's almost like, I mean, the way this card looks, it's like you're going to see behind the mask. Somebody's going to show you who they really are. You may see somebody's shadow. What you choose to do with it is yours. This Gemini need to see from this Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck. What is Gemini? Okay. Abundance. You're seeing the other side of things. You're seeing the other side of things when it comes to what you thought abundance was. You're going to be given the opportunity to have a Ten of Pentacles situation, Gemini. Some of you Geminis are going to have a Ten of Pentacles situation where there's abundance, and others of you Geminis are going to have the shadow, deception, and envy. I'm not sure which side of the coin you're going to lay on because free will is in play and your choices are yours. But those are the messages that are coming up for Gemini. We're going to move on to Cancer. So Cancer, this Aries full moon is occurring for you in the 10th house of career, status, reputation, and those relationships. The Sun and Mercury and the new moon are in your 4th house of home and family, roots, stability, and foundations. The full moon ascension point where Jupiter is the 7th house. So lean on your relationships with others. Mercury retrograde in Libra and Scorpio is going to be hitting your 4th and 5th house. So you're going to be looking back during this Mercury retrograde in a water sign. You're going to be looking back at the themes of home and family. And it could be your home and your family, or your home, like your childhood home and your family home, and the history that goes with that. The Halloween blue moon is going to be happening in your 3rd house. So be careful, dear Cancer. Please be careful on Halloween. If you're going out, please be careful, because especially if you're driving, because the 3rd house speaks to your short distance travels. It deals with your siblings, your cousins, your neighbors, and the people in your neighborhood. What does Cancer need to see? October 2020. We've got the Jack of Pentacles, which would be like the Knight or the Page. And this is dealing with fascination, wonder, and scholarship. You could be wanting to do some sort of genealogy research. Some of you Cancers are wanting to like write down your family history or do the genetic work, or you're being inspired to do like the 23andMe kind of thing, where you're wanting to reach out and find more out about your roots and where you came from, and the stories that go with that. It could be that some of you find out that you may have a long-lost brother or sister or cousin through one of those DNA things too. If that's the case, please comment below, because that's really specific. 3 cards for you. We got financial and material changes in the 5th house. You've got Mercury retrograde in the 5th house. We've got new beginnings. So you've got a new beginning. That new moon will be in your 4th house of family. You have an opportunity for a new chance. What will you do with it, and what will you seed with it in that 4th house of home, family, roots, stability, and foundation? The 3rd card of this Psychic Tarot Oracle deck that fell is the Spiritual Strength card. You see that? I know, it's a little bright. Spiritual Strength. No 9th house resonance, but you are going to need to, I see this almost as like standing on the shoulders of giants. It's knowing that you are protected by the people who you came from and know that you will be protecting the people who come from you. We are all connected. We are all connected. So let's see what Cancer gets from this Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck. What does Cancer need to see for this October 2020? This Vintage Oracle deck, Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck. Approach this month like you are learning, not like you know it all, and that will help a lot. And if it comes down to a showdown where, like, if you are of a certain age, Cancer, and you are dealing with family members or children or whatever that are kind of like throwing things in your face from the past, you can say, I'm growing, I'm evolving, I'm changing. Please get to know the new version of me. What should the Cancers know or hear from this Vintage Wisdom Oracle? What do these two are sticking? Reflection and kindred spirits. I told you might be dealing with some sort of childhood situations. It could be, it may not be. You're going to deal with somebody either in the home or somebody who feels like home to you. Kindred spirits with a little butterfly. And then reflection. And I mean, Cancer, it looks like she's in a full moon reflecting. Give yourself some time because the moon is your ruler, and you're going to have 3 lunar cycles going on in this month. And to be ruled by the moon is difficult enough. To go through this many lunations in such a short period of time is something completely different. You're going to have a full moon at the beginning of the month, a new moon at the middle part of the month during the Mercury retrograde, and then at the end of the month, another full moon. You are going to be very emotional. Approach it with childlike wonder. Let's move on to Leo. Celebration won't stop either. Some of you may be celebrating. That doesn't mean everybody will be. This is a general reading, but okay. For my Leos. Leo, baby, this full moon is occurring for you in the 9th house, and that's your long distance trips, that's your adventures, that's your questing, your higher minded ideals. It's the things that it takes a long time to learn. You've got the new moon and Mercury in your 3rd house of short distance communications and dealing with your neighbors, siblings, cousins, and people in your close local domain, the people who are on your same level. The ascension point for you is in your 6th house of work and health and daily life and routine. So if things get to be too much for you during the month, pick up a mop and start mopping, or put some macaroni in a pot. I say that in jest, but I mean truly focus on the things that you would do to make your life, your body, your house, whatever, run tip-top shape without you constantly worrying about where X, Y, or Z is. Put that focus into that 6th house of what your routine is going to look like. And by the end of the month, hopefully, you will have a better reflection in that 4th house. You've got the Mercury retrograde in your 3rd and 4th house. So you've got a lot of focus on that 3rd house and the 4th house of your short distance trips, the way that you communicate as well, but also in that 4th house of family. So family's on the mind, especially towards the end of the month. It could be that some of you are really upset that you can't do the sorts of things that we would normally do during Halloween, where we have traditions of either going out trick-or-treating or going to different fall harvest parties at different churches or whatever. And the way that it is right now with what's going on in the world, it's just not very feasible. So it could be that some of you Leos are really kind of down and out about that. Yeah. Let's see what the cards have to say. What does Leo need to know for this October 2020? What does Leo need to know for this October 2020? What does Leo need to know or see for October 2020? Okay, you got the Devil card. And this is the card that deals with temptation, control, attachments. And it could also be dealing with a Capricorn. Now notice there's like two faces here. It could be two faces really close together, like cheek to cheek, but it could also be like two-faced. Don't be two-faced in your communication because you will get called out on it. Okay. There's like 14 cards that fell. Let's see what they say. Okay. So we got triumphant success, recognition, and reward. The way that I'm reading this, because there's two faces right here, some of you Leos will be dealing with this. Triumphant success, recognition, and reward. Another triumph card. Transformation. Destiny. And then we've got disconnect and boredom with emotional withdrawal. So you know what that's speaking about, Leo, not me. There's triumph in one area of life, destiny, transformation, recognition, and reward. Are you attached to that success? And now that we've gone through what we've gone through, you're on this end with the discontent and disconnect and the boredom and the emotional withdrawal? Are you being tempted by the fruit of another? Is it at work? Some of you are going to have a hard time struggling with work-life balance as well. Lord have mercy, these were a lot of cards that fell out. I normally don't read like that, but they all kind of fell up. So what you gonna do? That was a lot of cards. What do the Leos need to know from the ancient or vintage wisdom oracle? I'm sorry, ancient. Vintage wisdom oracle. What do my Leos need to know? Patience. Patience, dear Leo. Patience, patience, patience. And that's like the hardest thing in the world when you're trying to start something up, especially if you're trying to like get kick-started in that sixth house where I keep kind of directing you to focus your energy on your daily routine. You're not going to get it overnight. It's going to take patience. It's going to take practice. But if you continue to do the work, if you continue to be patient, if you continue to resist temptation or the control or the need to be attached to something, don't be attached to the outcome. Don't be attached to the outcome. That's what's repeating in my head. So let's move on to Virgo. All right, Virgo. We have this full moon in Aries in your 8th house. Life, death, and rebirth. That's transformation, baby. What are you transforming? What are you going through? Because it's been a lot. You've got the Sun in Libra and Mercury there as well in the 2nd house of your money. So money and finances is going to be on your mind. It probably has been since hello 2020. But I mean, yeah, it's a big deal for you right now. We've got the ascension point for you, the 5th house. That's where Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn are right now. Okay, it's time for me to another drink. 5th house is the house of like your children. It's where you create things. It's where you spend your leisure time. So you need to figure out a way for you to be able to access the joy of the 5th house without expending any money. That will be one way for you to be able to work out what's going on for you. Mercury's going to go retrograde in your 2nd and 3rd houses. So the 2nd house is the house of your resources and your money and the things that you spend on other people. It doesn't have to be money. It could be time. It could be energy. It could be emotions. And the 3rd house is your communication. It's your short distance travel. It's your siblings, cousins, and neighbors, the people in your neighborhood. That final full moon at the end of the month on October 31st, a blue moon, is going to be in that 5th house again. So you, much like Leo, are probably going to be upset that you can't do the kind of things that we would normally be doing on schedule for October 31st, because Virgo, you love your schedules. You love your schedules, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it could be that it's like there's a little bit of a mourning process. I don't think any of us realized what we were getting into at the beginning of the year, and I don't think any of us have really truly wrapped our brains around it. We've just kind of been shell-shocked. We are like a gaslit and traumatized collective society right now. Let's see what the cards have to say for you. For my Virgos, what needs to be said or heard? For my Virgos for October 2020, what needs to be seen or heard? Okay, Virgo, what you want to say? Pardon me, all. You got the Star card, hope and healing. It's a sign of Aquarius, so you may be dealing with an Aquarian, sun, moon, or rising. Probably Aquarius sun, just because it's a sun that, or a sun right here. 7 of Diamonds, that would be 7 of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot. And then we got the Jack of Spades, potential and caution. What do the Virgos need to know from this Psychic Tarot Oracle deck? Virgo, October 2020. Fulfillment of wishes. That's a nice thing. So, since we're here and we're talking about fulfillment of wishes and all, 5th house is the house of gambling. I would not bet the farm on anything. Do you hear me, Virgo? You do not go into debt trying to win a lottery or gamble. But if you were to buy a raffle ticket or a dollar scratch off at the gas station, you could have a sweet return. This card fell for you. Enchantment. I feel like some of you are being enchanted by a Virgo, and you need to be wary. I say that because of this Mercury retrograde coming up, not because the person is bad or anything, but Mercury retrograde never really you start out seeing it one way and it ends up being something different. We did just have Venus retrograde in Gemini this year, earlier this summer. So if this is someone who has come back to you during the summer period, just be wary that you may see something on the other side of it that you weren't aware of or not expecting. But it's not a bad thing to be enchanted. It's not a bad thing at all. Remember that 5th house is your outlet, though, and the 5th house being the house of your children and creation. Be careful that you're not making any babies with somebody that you're not want to make babies with. So there's that. Virgo, I hope you're well, and I will talk to you next month. Let's move on to Libra. So, Libra, you are part of this cosign that is hosting the Mercury retrograde this season, October 2020. So, congratulations, yay, all that good stuff, right? Since see, I'm in the shadow. Since September 22nd, you should have probably been dealing with things that just aren't quite clear. Confusing, maybe mail getting lost, communication kind of getting lost in the ether. It's not a bad thing. We're just learning patience and we're learning how to work through it. So we've got this full moon in Aries in your 7th house. So this will be dealing with the people that you relate with on a very regular basis. It doesn't have to be people that you're in a relationship with, but it usually speaks to that. We've got the new moon and the sun and Mercury in your 1st house of Libra. That is you. Then we've got this fourth house ascension point, and this is where Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are right now. And Jupiter will help lift you out of this funk of the T-square and also what's going on at the end of the month by focusing on your fourth house of home and family, roots, stability, and foundation. That Mercury retrograde is going to be going through your first and second houses. So your money, one of your possession money houses will be hit. Be careful with that. It could be that some money is coming back to you. So that would be nice. And then we've got the full moon at the end of the month on the 31st in your sixth house of work and health. So lots of focus on you and what you're doing and how you're doing it. I pulled for you out of the Illuminated Tarot deck the Four of Pentacles, and this is speaking to the hesitation to help others. It's a preoccupation with your own possessions. Let's see what the Psychic Tarot Oracle has to say for my Libras for October 2020. Conflict and defeat. It may feel that way. So some of you are conflicted about what's going on, but others of you are focusing what I told you to. Focusing on your home, focusing on foundation and achievement. Don't let work run you raw. Don't let work run you ragged, is what I keep hearing. Find a way to take care of yourself and to provide that self-care. Because we've all been kind of stretched to our limits. What does Libra need to see from this Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck? Thought and enchantment. Virgo got enchantment just a second ago, so it's interesting that enchantment has popped back up, but thought as well. Because you've got so much focus in the first house, which is you, it would be a good time to put extra thought into what you are trying to do. What do you value and what do you no longer value? Because the air signs, my air conditioner just kicked on. It's like almost 90 degrees. So if it's disturbing, I'm sorry, but I'm sweating. And it kicked on by itself. So you know it's hot in here. I got distracted. Some of you, Libras, need to focus on what it is that you want and what it is that you value and what it is that you no longer value. Venus going retrograde in Gemini affected everybody, but it implicated the air signs. It implicated the fact that there was a real value shift for you there. And something occurred this summer that made you see things differently. What was that paradigm shift? And what can you do to enchant it? What can you do to make it better, stronger? Like enchanting, like in a video game and you're adding stats to your gear or whatever. That's one way to see enchantment. Another way to see enchantment is through the actual being enchanted by another human being, by their presence, by their spirit. That full moon in the 7th house, it could be that you are falling in love with your partner again, which would be beautiful. Let me know if that's the case. Because, I mean, it's hard to respect what you have when you've had it for so long. We're creatures of comfort and we take things for granted. And it could be that you've been taking your other person for granted. Or it could be that they've been taking you for granted. It doesn't have to be just you. I mean, the energy is the energy. That's what I've got for you, Libra. Let's see what Scorpio has to contend with this October. Scorpio, Scorpio, Scorpio. Scorpio, this Aries full moon is occurring in your 6th house of work and health, daily life, your routine. What are you doing on a daily basis to make your life, world, and house work at its most efficient rate in the highest service of you? Are you doing anything to help prop up that? Have you? Are you? I sat down and wrote a recording schedule out, so the next time that I do these recordings, it won't be done in just one day. It'll be done throughout the week to give me more time for my energetic reserves, because this takes a lot for me. I do it for you because I love you, but it does take a lot of energetic resources from me. So that's what's happening for me. I'm a Scorpio rising in the 6th house. So we've got the Sun, Mercury, and this new moon in the 12th house. The 12th house is the house of secrets and dream space and illusions and delusions and self-undoing. Another sip of water. I'm actually doing better on that too. So with the Sun in the 12th house and Mercury in the 12th house, it's probably going to be really hard for you Scorpios to sleep. I know that I have taken up, for me personally, the month of October, I have decided I'm going to dedicate to acknowledging and respecting and mourning the loss that we as a global society have endured this year. Every year we lose people. It's just a part of life. But we have lost so many. And in my opinion, needlessly. When all we needed was the right information, so many could have been spared or saved. I've decided to mourn and grieve the loss. I invite you Scorpios to do it as well, and I say that and extend it to you. Maybe we can do a little Scorpio huddle up or something online or whatever, where we can literally energetically make space for the people who have passed over, because it's been a traumatic year. Every year is full of trauma, but this one especially so. I don't have to indicate it or demarcate it for you. Just let me gesture wildly around. Look at the cascading dumpster fire that we all find ourselves in. Yes, there are things that we should be grateful for and be thankful for and bless and love and praise. But it has also been a very dark, dark year. And we can call it that, Scorpio. We can call it that. We see it for what it is. Let's see what the cards. Well, I'm not done telling you about this. So your 3rd house is where your ascension point is. Focusing on the 3rd house of short distance travel, possibly getting a vehicle or a new phone maybe, because that's where the new moon's going to, well, no, that's a full moon ascension point. Focusing on a new car or a new mode of transport, a new way of getting your communication style out into the world, would be good for you. It would be healing for you, and it would be a good way for you to balance what's going on this month. Focusing on that third house of your siblings, your cousins, the people in your neighborhood, your neighbors, the people who are on your level. This Mercury retrograde is going to be occurring in your 12th and 1st house, and that goes back to the whole idea of not being able to sleep. With the Sun and Mercury being in your 12th house, it's like trying to go to sleep in the middle of a party with the lights on and everybody talking. It's just not going to be very conducive. So be gentle with yourself. Maybe work out more. Maybe you realize at the beginning of the month you need to work out so that you're tired by the end of the month, so that the Sun and Mercury in that 12th house isn't keeping you up at night. And then we've got the full moon in Taurus at the end of the month in your 7th house of relationships and relations. Let's see what the cards have to say for you, Scorpio. My earphones keep trying to jump out of my ears, so I'm I'm pushing the little thing in all the time. It's really starting to annoy me. I guess that means I need to get a different mic. My third house. What? Are you kidding me? What? What does Scorpio need to see or hear for October 2020? 8 of Clubs, which is like the 8 of Wands. Swift movement to create stability and repetition. This is like a peacock building her little nest. Maybe you want to look and see what peacock spirit animal symbology means for you. You don't have any 8th house occurrences by my notes. But, I mean, if you look at the astrological wheel, people associate the 8th house with Scorpio. So, there's that. What are you trying to build? I mean, we're all trying to build something. What are you trying to build, Scorpio? Are you clear about it? It may be that you need a journal to get clear on what it is that you're wanting. Okay, it flew out the deck. Give me a second because I'm in a rocking chair, so it doesn't bend. I have to. Positive movement forward. I will take that. How about y'all? Look at that sailboat. Heck yeah, I'll take that positive movement forward. You daggone right I will. We all need it, right? Positive movement forward. I love that. That's awesome. Positive movement forward in your health, in your relationships, in your communication. I wish it all for you. What does Scorpio need to see from the Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck for October 2020? You had 2 8s pop up too. This is too much. Synchronicity may really be on point for you as well. Pay attention to repeating numbers. Okay. Freedom. You want freedom. What do you want freedom from? Are you building towards your own freedom? Like, what does that look like? Do you know? Have you even written out the plan yet? Because if you don't have a plan, it's going to be hard to make it happen. Make that plan, Scorpio. I think you need to get you a little journal and start writing down what it is that you want to see for yourself after surviving this clusterfuck 2020. Yes, I said it, and I apologize for my language, but I know that if I could drop a bomb like that on anybody, it would be y'all. So let's see what Sagittarius is going through. All right, sweet Sag. This fiery Aries full moon is occurring in your 5th house of creation and social life and your social circle, the people that you spend your time with, the energy that you spend on things that are creative in endeavor. It could also be, the 5th house is where your children are creative, right? You had a card flip out while I was just playing with my cards. Let's see what it has to say. Material and spiritual prosperity. I'm going to put it back in the deck and we'll see if it pops back out for y'all. But some of y'all, this may be speaking to you pretty loudly. The Sun and Mercury are in your 11th house of social media and social gatherings, social groups. You've got your ascension point in that 2nd house, so focus on your money and your resources and the things that matter to you, the things that you can call mine. We've got Mercury going retrograde in your 11th and 12th houses. Please be careful online with your information and what you have to say in this very, very emotionally wrought election cycle. Sagittarius, you are an idealist and you like to share your idealistic views with the world, but it doesn't necessarily always correspond with other people's view of the world. And you're ruled by Jupiter, so you can be very Jupiterian about it and kind of laugh it off. Other people aren't taking it quite so jokey or so funny, so let's not troll people for the sake of trolling, because we're in a really sensitive time right now, and nobody else needs to be agitated any more than what they already are. Yeah. And we've got the 2nd full moon of the month on Halloween in your 8th house. Ookie, spooky, kooky. 8th house is the house of life, death, and rebirth. It could be that you are possibly being visited by the spirit of a deceased loved one, or you're dealing with the themes in that 8th house on Halloween, which is perfect timing, honestly. Yeah, let's see what the cards have to say for you, Sag. How about that? Sagittarius, October 2020. What do they need to see? What do they need to hear? Okay. Wow. Crap. These cards have been flying all over the place. We got the Lovers card. It's the 6 of Hearts in this illuminated tarot deck, but it represents the Lovers card in the Rider-Waite. It deals with the Lovers, beauty, love, union, and the sign of Gemini. Now, I don't have it down here, Sagittarius, but because Gemini came up in this reading, I want you to look at where Gemini is in your chart. If you're a sun, moon, or rising, whatever it is, look at your birth chart and figure out where Gemini is, because that's where Venus went retrograde this summer. So you've had a shift, we all have had a shift in values, but for you, wherever the Gemini house is in your chart is, those are the themes that you're going to be understanding your value shifts and where they've taken place so you can better address them. What does Sag need to see from this Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck? Awakening. Some of you may be going through a spiritual awakening. Some of you may be having, after a long period of dormancy, you may be coming into a new relationship. According to these cards. Let me look at the astrology again. Fifth house, yeah, I mean, that's the house of romance. You could very much be running into somebody or meeting somebody around the 1st of the month. For some of you Sages, you unattached Sages, don't think that it's okay for you to just run out. Passion ignited. Are you kidding me? Okay, Sag. Get it, baby. As long as it's in, you know, you're not harming anybody else and nobody else will be harmed by it, then by all means do it. But, I mean, every one of these cards is screaming, you're about to get it, Sag, and not in a bad way. I like it for you. I like it for you a lot, Sag. Just don't let your feelings run away from you and stay grounded so you know what you want from this person or this situation or this creation. For some of you, there may be a baby being conceived, so be careful with that as well. The Cups cards are also, I see them as wombs sometimes, and this is a full circle. This looks like a new moon seed for me, and literally the spark of life within, so do with it what thou will. If you aren't looking to get pregnant, then please do what you can to prevent that pregnancy. If you are looking to get pregnant, then please be careful and don't do it because you want the baby. Do it because, do it because you want the baby, but also understand that you're mixing energy with another person. And in doing that, you don't have control on what that alchemical concoction will look like or come out to be. So just forewarned is forearmed. Tread lightly. Do it in integrity. And let me know what your love connection looks like, Sag. I want to know. Let's move on to Capricorn. Sweet Capricorn, this Aries full moon is occurring in your 4th house of home, family, roots, stability, and foundation. The Sun and Mercury and the new moon will all be occurring in your 10th house of career, status, and reputation. It's the house that I like to equate to the stage in the quote, "All the world's a stage" by William Shakespeare. It's how you approach the world. It's how the world knows you through your career, your status, and your reputation. The focus point is on you. Focus on you, Capricorn. Don't focus on anybody else but what's in your tight little circle, and that means what's in your 4 walls. If they're not immediate family, then it doesn't need to happen immediately. Focus on you and yours. Mercury retrograde is going to be going through the 10th and 11th houses. For you as well, I would like to see you be careful on social media. I gave this out as well to Sagittarius. 10th house dealing with your career and status, 11th house dealing with your social media presence, but also how you deal in groups of people that you would have a membership, with or of an affiliation with. understand that we're not all as like-minded as we would like to think we are. So trolling for trolling's sake isn't going to go very well. And if you aren't sure about what you're posting on social media, fact check it yourself so that you know that you are completely informed on what it is that you are talking about. The full moon at the end of the month is going to be occurring in your ninth house, and that's the career. That's the house of your long distance travel, your learning. This is long learning. This is not something that would take you a week worth of cramming and then you do the test and then it's over. This is a learning that lasts. Astrology, higher education, university type learning, that sort of stuff. That's where you need to focus it. It could also be astrology, psychology, um, numerology, any of the ologies if you want. Let's see what's going on for you in the cards, Capricorn. What does Capricorn need to hear or see? October 2020. What does October hold for my Capricorns? What do they need to see or hear? Ambition, intelligence, and strategy. This is the Queen of Spades. Also the Queen of Swords. Be wise with what you have to say. Be strategic. Do more listening than you do speaking, and you will do well. Okay. Universal messages coming to you and through you. You need to pay attention to the signs and symbols that are coming your way because the universe has something to say to you about it. From this vintage wisdom oracle deck, what do the Capricorns need to know for October 2020? Okay, fine. Beauty and balance. Well, I mean, they say that symmetry is beauty, right? So symmetry would be a form of balance. Capricorn, it's time for you to figure out how to balance your work-life commitment. Your work-life commitment is becoming a little too much for you and your family is what it looks like between the astrology and the cards, especially the balance card. It doesn't have to look exactly the way that you want it to for it to be okay as well. I know you can be very perfectionistic, Capricorn, and it doesn't have to look the way that you think it should look for it to be okay. That's what I got for you, baby. Let's move on to Aquarius. Aquarius, this Aries full moon is occurring for you in the third house of your siblings, cousins, neighbors, and people in your neighborhood. You could also be dealing with your phone or your car. So be careful at the beginning of the month with your driving. Don't text and drive. We have the sun and Mercury, and you also have the new moon in your ninth house of long distance trips and travel. It's the house of astrology. It's the house of psychology. A lot of the ologies, it's like long-term learning, university learning, that sort of thing. The 12th house is your escape point, which sounds kind of weird because the 12th house is escapist anyway, but it's like the dream space is going to give you the answers that you need or the respite that you seek. The 12th house is, it's the darkest house on the wheel to see, to interpret, but I also see it as like nighttime, so it may be that for you, Aquarius, the peace that you get will come at night. You've got Mercury going retrograde between your 9th and 10th houses. So be careful that you, when you're learning from an authority. Because the 9th and 10th houses, it just looks to me like you taking a class, 9th and 10th houses with Mercury going retrograde in it, it screams like Trump University kind of stuff where it's like, oh, I'm taking classes. I'm definitely going to be able to do this. And then it's like, they're not even accredited. Oh my God. Now I owe all this money and some, that sort of thing. And then the full moon that we have at the end of the month is in the 10th house. That's your career, your status, your reputation, and your knowing how people know you in the world. Aquarius, what just flew out the deck for you? Let's see. We got the Two of Hearts. This is temperance and balance. Finding balance and moderation. Balance and moderation. She has to be balanced to be able to pour these 2 cups without spilling anything. What 2 cups are you trying to balance right now? Is it more than 2 cups? Is it an 8-top table? The Hope card. And your 3rd eye chakra. Okay, so Aquarius, your 3rd eye needs balanced and probably cleansed. I say this because of a couple things. Earlier this year, Saturn went into Aquarius. The way that I believe astrology, or how I look at astrology, and a lot of other people do too, there's many different camps, but the way that I believe it is that when Saturn touches your sign, even if it retrogrades into another sign going backwards, you're still under the influence of that Saturnian resonance. And Aquarius, you're about to have Saturn in your sign. At the end of the year, Saturn moves back into Aquarius and is there for the long haul this time. There are a lot of lessons that are going to be coming your way throughout the next 2 years that are going to require you to maintain your balance, that will require you to pay attention to your 3rd eye chakra so you can see what you really need to see. It could be that some of you may want to start like anointing your 3rd eye with frankincense or lavender essential oils, the good stuff, not the cheap stuff. Not to say cheap can't be good. Do your homework, understand if it's ethically sourced, that sort of thing. But tend to your 3rd eye chakra and don't let hate fade. That's what I'm saying, because Saturn in your sign can feel kind of like despairing. It can feel very bleak. I consider it like walking through the valley of the shadow of death almost, where you feel very alone. You're not, but it feels very alone. That's what comes to you. That's what will be coming to you by the end of the year. So I'm preparing you for that. I feel like these cards are also preparing you for that. What does Aquarius need to see from the Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck? What does Aquarius need to see from the Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck for October 2020? Abundance. Focus on the abundance that you have in your world. Do what you can to maintain it with integrity. But understand that Saturn's transits are always going to make us stronger. Now, they say that when you break a bone, when it refuses, that is the strongest part of the bone. For some Aquarians who have not been paying attention to the lessons that they needed to be learning, there will be the broken bone situation, literally or metaphorically. I had 2 broken bones. I broke the same toe twice in a 6-week period when Saturn was in Scorpio at the very beginning, telling me to slow down, pay attention, honor my craft. Saturn's in your 12th house right now, probably making it really difficult for you to sleep, probably making it really difficult for you to be able to escape. So if you are full of escapist tendencies, please, 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 moderation right now. The 27 Club is something that is spoken about in musical artist genre circles, where certain artists died at the age of 27, and it's sad. But But 27 is the age of your first Saturn return. And it's like, if you are doing too much, you will learn that you're doing too much. Aquarius, do not be team too much right now. It's good to want abundance, but you are about to experience a time of lack, because Saturn is just that. Be prepared, but don't be scared. But be prepared. Let's move on to Pisces. Sweet, sweet, fishy Pisces. I say fishy, it's nothing derogatory. My youngest baby Joshua, when he was little, he would say, "Mama, look, I'm a fishy, fishy," whenever he was in the bathtub. So that's what I hear when I say fishy. Fishy, fishy. Pisces. This full moon in Aries is occurring in your second house. Money, resources, material resources, the things that you spend on other people. But it doesn't have to be money. It's resources that you would spend on other people. Time, energy, etc. But yes, also money. I just dropped like half of my tarot deck. So yeah, we have this full moon in Aries in your second house. You have the Sun and Mercury and the new moon in your 8th house. That's another resource house. You've got the ascension point in your 11th house. So some of you may really be looking to social media or your social circles in one way or another to help you through this time. That's the place that you need to go for that. Don't be obnoxious on social media, and don't be subliminally attacking people if you've got beef either, because they're going to be able to tell. You've got Mercury going through its retrograde phase in your 8th and 9th houses. 8th house is a resource house. And yeah, Pisces, you're going through it right now. If it's not resources that you're dealing with, then it's the values of losing somebody very close to you, or something very close to you, something that you valued highly. 8th house is the house of life, death, and rebirth, but it is also other people's money. And it's the taboo things you don't talk about at the table. Sex, politics, money, who owes who, that sort of thing. Let's see what the cards have to say for you. At the end of the month, Pisces, that full moon's going to be in your 11th house of Taurus with Uranus there. So social media could definitely be an issue, a stickler for you towards the end of the month. You don't have to use it. You don't have to use social media. You can actually go to your friend's house if you want to. It may actually be better. Don't break any of the rules that are for your local location. I'm not telling you to break any social distancing rules or anything like that. Protect yourself and protect your friends. But leaning on your friends will be a source of comfort that not much else will provide you right now. And you may really, really be sad about October 31st and not being able to have the kind of group gathering party that you would normally kind of try to have. If not party, then it's like you want to be in with the school of fish doing the trick-or-treat thing, and it's just not, it's not viable this year, not safely viable with an airborne illness round. Pisces, October. So I don't have any cards I had one flip out immediately when I was playing with the cards. About to talk to you about the astrology, but now it's not the same card that popped earlier, but resonant nonetheless. This is the Four of Diamonds. It would be the Four of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite Tarot, and it speaks to the hesitation to help others. It's a preoccupation with your own possessions. 2nd and 8th house, that's pretty resonant for you. With this number 4 here, it also indicates to me that there may be something in your house that you're looking to get rid of that maybe can help boost your income or help float you along until more resources find your way. Just make sure you're not selling anything that you don't want to part with, because you won't be able to get it back. What does Pisces need to see from the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck? Okay. A fulfillment of wishes and a focus on foundation and achievement. And I mean, okay, we've got the number 4 here, the number 4 here, and the number 9 here. You've got Mercury retrograding through your 9th house throughout October and November. So that speaks to the fulfillment of wishes. It could be that the resources come in after the second part of the Mercury retrograde or when it's clearing its shadow. It'll clear its shadow by the 19th. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, dear Pisces. What do my Pisces need to see or hear from the Vintage Wisdom Oracle deck? Okay, well, that was the top one. Innocence. Where in your life can you return to innocence? I mean, I'm not saying that you can just hit a reset button and it starts all over, but where can you, what areas of your life can you approach with innocence? Truth. For some of you, this is a truth moment. I mean, you've got Mercury going retrograde in the 8th house that is associated with the sign of Scorpio. And Scorpio is a detective. They dig for truth. They have to have it. They have to find it. They have to know it. They seek the truth. Do you have a Scorpio friend in your world, Pisces? If you don't, I suggest you get one. You don't need to be afraid of us. I'm a Scorpio rising. There's a lot of glare on this. I'm trying, y'all. It could be that you see a mirror of yourself. Like a mirror in situations you're dealing with somebody, possibly through online circumstances. It could be that you're reliving something of your past through another person's online sharing is another way that it could come forward. But I see this guy right here, this eyeball up here. It's like, that's a private eye. That's somebody who's watching you. That's somebody who's paying attention to what's going on. It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody watching you. You could be watching others, but you're going to see the opposite of what you've been seeing. If you've been seeing innocence, it may be the opposite. But if not, there you go. I think that whatever it is, the focus on your friends and your social engagements will make you feel more sane than anything else. It may be that you need to get on Zoom with some of your girlfriends, guy friends, whatever, and just have a vent session, a bitch session, a cry session, whatever needs to happen. I also invite you, Pisces, to join with me this October. I spoke about this with the Cancers, I think, Scorpios. I didn't speak about it with Cancers, Scorpios. But because you've got 8th house resonance, I think it would be beneficial for you as well. To mourn, to set a time sometime this October for remembrance of the loss that we have incurred as a society. And I don't just mean America, I mean it's a global society. There have been a lot of souls that have gone to the other side quite quickly without knowing what has happened to them because of an illness they probably didn't even know that they had. Amongst other things, there are people that are choosing very permanent solutions to very temporary situations out of desperation in their financial lives. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of trauma, a lot of gaslighting going on, and we need to be cognizant and aware of it. So yeah, that's what I've got for y'all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sending you a lot of love. Take care. Till next time. Bye, y'all.